Vladimir Putin, the richest man in the whole entire world. I'm going to show you exactly how he got to the top. I'm going to show you the reason why I think that his dictatorship over Russia is over. We're going to start with his early life before he became president of Russia. He was born on October 7th, 1952 to his father, a cook, and his mother, a factory worker. He spent his early days living in a communal apartment in St. Petersburg. As a kid, he was known as a fighter. He would always be starting fights in the streets with kids in the neighborhood, and he ended up joining judo at the age of 12, where he wanted to imitate the moves of intelligence officers from actors he's seen in movies. Later on, Putin studied law at Leningrad State University. He quickly joined the KGB. KGB, for those who don't know, was a securities agency during the Soviet Union, which translate to the State Securities Committee. The organization stopped rebellions and kept an eye on people suspected to be against the Communist Party. After his training, he was given the task of monitoring foreigners. During the decline of the KGB, he rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel, where he went back to St. Petersburg University, and he was tasked with the job of searching for students who had shown potential to join the KGB. While back at university, he reconnected with his former teacher, very important, Anatoly Sobchak. In 1991, when the KGB was officially dissolved, Putin decided to join Sobchak when he was elected to become mayor. He worked for him as an advisor and worked until 1996. After working with Anatoly Sobchak, he decided to move to Moscow to work with the Yeltsin administration, which was for the president at the time, Boris Yeltsin. Rising through the ranks of the administration, by 1999, he was named Secretary of Security and was Yeltsin's advisor on foreign relations and intelligence. Yeltsin suspiciously offered him a position as prime minister after getting rid of his old one. Even more suspicious, months after his promotion, Boris Yeltsin stepped down and Putin became acting president till the end of the term. I'm gonna get into later how he was able to rise to these ranks so quickly. We'll get into that. Putin was acting president after Yeltsin stepped down for 2 years, where his first presidential decree on the day that Yeltsin stepped down, December 31st, 1999, was titled "On Guarantees for the Former President of the Russian Federation and the Members of His Family." This means basically that the charges for corruption against the former President Yeltsin would not be pursued, which it means they're up to something, like obviously up to something. Months later, after Yeltsin in his term was over, he was elected for his first term as president at the start of the year 2000. People seemed pleased with Putin and what he was doing for the country in his first term, and was re-elected for his second and last term under the Russian Constitution. Putin was met with a 70% vote in his favor. His economic policies he incorporated allowed for people of Russia to gain more money, which was important because people of Russia were in severe poverty. Him being able to create them more money was why he got such a popular vote. After Putin's second and last term, one of Putin's protege, Dmitry Medvedev, became president and made Putin his prime minister. So basically, Putin and Medvedev worked together prior so that Medvedev would become president, and then he'd make Putin his prime minister. So Putin would basically keep all of his power, which is corrupt as hell. Putin had won easily in the parliamentary election, which was basically to determine if you were going to be a candidate, which was met with thousands of people protesting against him. Rightly so, seeing what he has done. On March 4th, 2012, Putin won the election and started his third term as president. His win in this election had caused thousands of protests over the country, and 450 people were arrested during these protests, and 8 were injured in conflicts with the police. This sparked the Russian people's controversy over Putin's legitimacy in office, where, a good amount of the country are for him and a good amount of them are against him. In 2020, it added new amendments to the Constitution that would allow only him to run another 2 consecutive terms, so he could run again after 2024, possibly. As I saw more and more examples of Putin's corruption in Russia, I really wanted to dive deeper into it, dive deeper into the darker side of Putin's monarchy. Putin has been able to instill fear into the people of Russia and shown that if any of the people surrounding him misbehave, he will swiftly take care of them, and he has the resources to do such and hide it so nobody knows. He can influence them with money, with favors. One of Putin's associates, Boris Berezovsky, also a Russian oligarch in Putin's circle, had a worker, Scott Young, who told police that he had feared for his life, that someone was chasing after him, and that he was going to get killed. He was found dead in 2013, where he fell out of his window and landed on a railing that impaled him. But the police came in and chalked it up to him unaliving himself. Catch my drift. I in no way want to speak ill on the deceased, but it was stated through news leaks that it was possible that Scott Young had worked for Boris Berezovsky by laundering money for him and other of his associates which were connected to Putin, but he tried to move away from this life and was ended for doing it. Mikhail Khodorkovsky, a rich oligarch worth $15 billion, questioned Putin based on corruption, tax fraud. He was swiftly put to jail for tax evasion. Mikhail Khodorkovsky was made an example out of through Putin tossing him in jail for tax evasion, and he showed that if anybody even tries to do something like that, put a stain on his image, he'll do the same or worse. In 1999, there was a series of bombings where it was blamed on the Chechens that it was a terrorist attack against Russia. So they ended up going to war against Chechnya, with Putin being the lead against them, being the prime minister. Putin was able to gain national recognition through his straightforward attack towards Chechnya, get revenge for these terrorist attacks against his own people. So he was the main benefactor of these bombings, but it was later seen that the bombs themselves were made by Russian military and not by Chechnya. In 2003, a reporter named Yuri Shiheshihin had done investigation into the 1999 bombings, and as soon as he did so, he contracted a mysterious illness where he died shortly after he was planning to go to the United States. But then the Russian authorities deemed that his medical records were classified, so they probably poisoned him. There's countless examples of Putin getting rid of people who don't agree with him, shady dealings in his tight circle, but I want to go through more what's going on right now, the war in Ukraine, and why I think this is going to lead to the end of this dictator's regime. So what's going on right now is that cities in Ukraine that are predominantly Russian are being butchered by Russia through the conflict in Ukraine. He starts his address to Russia hours before he strikes a missile at Ukraine. He starts his address by stating that Ukraine is not an actual country and just an extension of Russia, which I'm going to go into why this is all BS later. But he starts to portray the narrative that Russian people in Ukraine have been overhauled by the West in order to defeat Russia. He's basically saying that the West is taking control of Ukraine in order to get a front to destroy Russia. So Putin says that he will not let Russia be destroyed by the likes of the West, and claims that it's time to take back the land that was rightfully deserved to Russia. He needs to make this narrative in order for Russian people to back him in his decision going into war against Ukraine. He claims that people of Ukraine are being held hostage by anti-Russian neo-Nazis. He says this, anti-Russian neo-Nazis running the country. He bases this off the fact that there are some neo-Nazis that reside in Ukraine, but there's no way control of the whole entire country. It's like a little faction, little gang of neo-Nazis. It's not the entirety of Ukraine. He frames this war as a salvage mission to save the people of Ukraine. that are indoctrinated by the West. So he believes that once he goes into Ukraine, people are going to see him as a savior and, let him in. Putin says a lot more junk in his address before his invasion into Ukraine, but I'm going to just start getting into the facts. Ukraine has been a country for years before Russia. They have a history long before. So that's total BS. He twists up history, basically. Innocent lives are being lost due to the strikes, missile strikes, in Ukraine. So it's not just military outposts, it's civilian buildings. Civilians are fleeing the country instead of coming to Putin, coming to Russia like he thought would happen, which I don't know what he was thinking. Is he going crazy? Maybe. His whole mission is backfiring on him, and he's being humiliated, which he likes to keep his appearance to the rest of the world as a strong man, but he's failing. He's failing. Ukrainian military and aiding civilians are fighting back for their country against the invasion. Many countries are also aiding in the fight against Russia. Ukrainian army is full to the brim, where civilians are applying to get into the military to fight back for their country, which is really noble. Morale is higher than it's ever been since the invasion of Ukraine, and I thought this was really cool. The President Zelensky, when the rest of the world is trying to get him out of there, he said, "The fight is here. I need ammunition, not a ride," which is totally crazy powerful. I love that guy. I'm standing for it. People of Russia see this as a war of killing fellow brethren, where people of Russia and people of Ukraine share so much culture and identity together that if you live in Russia, you probably have a friend, family, somebody that lives in Ukraine. So you're most likely going to be against this war, which is invading their country. Most countries are aiding Ukraine in the defense, aligning together to fight this threat. NATO is united once again, which it hasn't been in years, against one common adversary. This is exactly where I see the end of Putin's tyranny in Russia. People that are protesting against this war, they're basically getting thrown in jail, which they're testing people's freedom in Russia. All the other countries are going to help against this man. They're all working together against Putin. Not just that, but the billionaires and oligarchs of Russia, due to sanctioning from other countries, basically cutting off all of their revenue stream, are not happy with the conflict and not happy with Putin. Not even Putin's closest circle knew of his plans in Ukraine, and it was basically news to them when Putin put out his address to invade. The economy is in such bad condition right now that even the oligarchs of Russia are suffering severe blows. They can't use any of their assets. The Russian ruble has dropped 20%, so everyone is screwed, basically. Companies are taking out, all companies are being taken out of Russia. Coca-Cola, Nike, Adidas in Russia. You guys, come on. It's possible that one of Putin's friends may want to take care of him. They might want to assassinate him so they could get stuff back to normal in Russia, so that they can keep making their money over the poor. It's fine. With everything I've laid out throughout this video, I think the only way that things can go in Russia is through the end of Putin, whether it be through protests so he doesn't get another win in an election, or through somebody taking care of him in Russia, whether it be one of his close circles or whatever. I don't hope for that to happen, but it's looking like that is what might happen. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what I can improve on, and tell your homies about us here. Most importantly, thank you guys for even spending any time listening to this BS. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching. And led to the Pussy Riot.